Osio Halito. It is RRJXi tips.com. Raven Redtail Hawk Jaguar. She. Gulana Gigagi Tawodi Tivdasi She. And today's episode is about Indigenous history. Indigenous her story. Okay. This is my family tree, okay? I'm letting y'all in on some of my ancestors, my indigenous ancestors, okay? So we're going to break this down, okay? So now, one of my relatives is Elizabeth Powhatan, okay? Let's look at her. All right. Elizabeth Powhatan, birth 1613, Virginia, British colonial America, okay? She was another one of her things is her alternate name is Elizabeth Cherokee. She's from the Cherokee tribe, the Aniyanwaya, Anikitawagi, Salagi tribe. All right. Elizabeth Powhatan, but the Powhatans were a part of the tribe that Pocahontas comes from. So growing up, when everybody was calling me Pocahontas, and my mother bought me an indigenous doll, had on the whole regalia. She had a feather in her hair, headband, and the dress, and the moccasin boots. I had that growing up, and I could only play with her on special occasions. She would sit on top of my dresser. So I always knew that I had Cherokee and Creek blood in my family, per my great grandmother on my father's side. So this is my father's side. Elizabeth Powhatan is related to me through my father's side. Okay. So now it says that she married Robert Massey Sr. Okay. She married Robert Massey Sr. Now, I just showed y'all the history. Elizabeth, she's from the Cherokee tribe, if y'all can see right here. All right, Powhatan. So, let's see if I can pull this up without. Let me see if it'll let me go back, though. All right. Now, this is Opechancanough, Mangopeesomon, Powhatan. All right. Birth 1554, Weroance, Opechancanough, Virginia, pre-colonial America. He died in October 1646 in Jamestown, James City, Virginia. All right. All right. So it lists, even though it lists her as one of her alias from the Cherokee tribe, it lists her father from the Pamunkey tribe. All right here says Pamunkey Tessina Kamaka. All right. So, from the Pamunkey tribe, that is my ancestor, my great grandmother. All right. All right. He married Cleopatra Powhatan. Let's look at her. All right. She was born in Weroance, Tessina Kamaka, pre-British colonial Virginia, North America. All right, it says death after December 17, 1641, in Virginia, British colonial America. All right. All right, so one of the tribal historians, William Dayo, said he is a descendant directly from Cleopatra. Cleopatra was a Native American woman, 1647, of the Powhatan. Let's look at this. Of the Powhatan tribe, what is now in the state of Virginia in the United States. All that is truly known about Cleopatra is that she was the sister of Pocahontas. Pocahontas is my ancestor. Y'all see it? Anyway, and aunt of Thomas Rolfe, and presumably she was alive in 1641. We know this because Thomas Rolfe petitioned the governor to see her on December 17, 1641. We do not know if permission was granted or if he ever saw her. Okay, per the Patawomic website, all right, they got this excerpt, okay? This explained, it said, that explained why Opechancanough married his own niece, Powhatan's daughter, Cleopatra, sister of Pocahontas, because she too was of royal bloodline. The head of the Federation was allowed to have as many wives as he wished, whereas the other chief of the tribes under his rule were only allowed to have a maximum of 2 wives. It was the common practice of the head of the Federation to take a wife and then send her away after she had given birth to her first child. The head of the Federation had only 1 child by each wife. The wife was then free to go on with her life and marry someone else. So after she gave him a baby, she was allowed to go on and be with someone else, according to this Patawomic website. All right. It says the one exception to this practice was the favorite wife. There was at least one favorite wife who lived with the head of the Federation and bore him many children. She was his favorite because she was of royal bloodline, and the only way through which he could have children to inherit his rule. He would therefore have as many children by her as he could to create his legacy, who then was the mother of Pocahontas and Cleopatra. It was the favorite wife of Chief Powhatan, Winganoski. She was known to have been the favorite wife and the mother of his then favorite daughter, Cleopatra, after Pocahontas had left his home to be married. So Pocahontas went on to marry the Rolfe dude. All right. We know the names of many Powhatan wives and children by the testimony of Machumps, the brother of Winganoski. Winganoski had the royal bloodline through her mother, the eldest of the 2 sisters of Chief Powhatan. Cleopatra, only one woman known as Cleopatra Powhatan at this point of time, and this was not a common name. So this is an excerpt from my ancestor. So from the Powhatan tribe down to Elizabeth Powhatan, my direct ancestor, she was listed as Cherokee. Now we know that when they formed the 5 civilized tribes, Cherokee was one of them. That was not our tribe's name, okay? Not the original names. So some good little history, y'all. So when I say happy Indigenous Heritage Month, happy American Indian Heritage Month, I have several tribes in my bloodline. Okay. And this is just on my paternal side. that we visiting today. My daddy's daddy side. All right, on my daddy's mama side. This is what this goes back to. All right. All right. So let's look at him. All right. Now, all right, this is her father. It says Opechancanough, Mangopeesomon, Powhatan. All right. 1554 to October 1646. All right. All right. He was buried on Pamunkey land. All right. Pamunkey, Tessina, Kamaka. All right. So these are my ancestors. Okay. Okay. His other name was Chief Eagle Plume. That's a feather. Plume is a feather. All right. Chief Eagle Plume. Okay. Also known as, his name meant he whose soul is white in the Algonquin language. What did that mean? His soul was white. Like, was it pure? Because he was of the indigenous bloodline? Or did he adopt some of the white ways? But I believe it's the previous. Chief Eagle Plume, Opechancanough. I gotta really practice on pronouncing that shit. All right. This is my ancestor according to my family tree. Okay. Through Elizabeth Powhatan. All right. So y'all can see this shit right here. And this is a free website, familysearch.org, where you can look up your ancestry. Okay. Interesting. And I found this after I had found that I was related to, let's just go over it. The Queen of Spain, the King of France, a shaman that was from Hungary. I was looking at, because I always focus on my indigenous and Creole ancestry, but I was just looking at my father's side, his mother's side, and they hail from the Slaughters. The Slaughters go back to um the Masseys, um the Alexanders. Let's see. All right, we're gonna go back. The Masseys, because Elizabeth Powhatan married Robert Massey. All right, let's keep going back. Okay, so let me see. All right. So let's go back to this. And I'm going to try to go to my tree. This is a tree that's connected to mine. So on Family Search, when you have the same ancestor, they show you the trees of other people that have the same ancestor. So all right, so this is my ancestor. All right. So let's see if we can find this. Hold on. Okay. These are my contributions. Okay. I added this person because I saw a connected ancestor. So all right, these are my okay, let's go to wow. Why was Josephine Slaughter deleted? The hell? Let's see. Because that's my great grandmother. Oh, somebody fucking with this shit. Let's see. Okay, look at this. Josephine Slaughter. Let's look. All right. All right. So this is my ancestor. All right. So Lula Moore is my daddy's mother. Okay. She was originally Lula. Lula Moore. Her mother is Josephine Slaughter. Okay. She comes from the Slaughter line. All right. And the Slaughters go back to the Alexander line. All right. Slaughters and Alexanders, you see them, and some Colliers, Wyatts, and Boudins. Even there's a Clark in there. All right. Let's look at this one. Sigismunda Mary Massey. Let's look at her and follow that. All right. You have Alexander. Then you got Massey's. Let's look at this. Let's look at the Massey. All right, the Massey. We're going to follow the Masseys. So the Masseys, as y'all can see, are connected to me. That are connected to the Alexanders, the Slaughters. Okay, Alexanders and Slaughters. That is my father's mother's people. All right, so let's go. All right, Massey. All right, let's follow the Massey. All right, so this is my family tree. All right, you see who was that? Elizabeth Powhatan. She married Robert Massey Sr. All right, and then her parents are Opechancanough, Mangopeesomon, Powhatan. So she comes from the Powhatan bloodline. My ancestor. Interesting. All right. And I was looking at this because I was looking at some other ancestors that's still connected to my father's side. But when I just looked and I kept looking, I followed Sigismunda Massey. Once I followed her, then there you have it. So Sigismunda married William Alexander, okay? And William Alexander And Sigismunda, Mary Massey, had Colonel John Field Slaughter, who married Jane Alexander. Okay, and then William Alexander Slaughter is who they had. He married Martha Watkins Collier. All right, she had the Collier bloodline goes back to some of those King and Queen of Spain, France. I even got some royalty of Italy. But I'm gonna show y'all. But it's Indigenous Heritage Month, so this is what I am focusing on. Okay, so now Felix and Cynthia Slaughter had these children. Now Josephine Slaughter is my great grandmother. All right, she comes from Felix and Cynthia Slaughter. Now Cynthia Slaughter is listed as mulatto. And some of the records say Alabama, and some of them say Neshoba, Mississippi. All right. Now, Cynthia, I couldn't find her maiden name, and it lists her as mulatto, and then it lists Felix as white. All right, so when y'all doing research, y'all genealogy, your family tree, it may say white or it may say mulatto. You got to just keep looking, because as you can see, I'm connected. One of my great grandmothers is Elizabeth Massey, who was born Elizabeth Powhatan. She was of Chief Eagle Plume. Okay. So when I say it's in my bloodline, it's in my bloodline. All right. So Felix Slaughter, the one who's listed as white, and his wife was Cynthia Slaughter. She was listed as mulatto. They had 7 children. Josephine Slaughter, she married Lewis Moore, and they had my great grandmother, who is Lula Moore. Okay, Lula Moore had my grandfather, and then therefore had my daddy and me. All right. So, and I'll just show y'all my name on here. Hey, I'm being transparent. This is me. Christina, Raven, Red-tailed Hawk, Jaguar, she, McCoy. All right. Now, the McCoy name came from who Lula Moore, my great grandmother, who she had a baby by. That's where my granddaddy got the name McCoy. Okay. So, just from Josephine Slaughter, my great grandmother, her father and mother, Felix Slaughter, hailed from William Alexander Slaughter, Martha Watkins Collier. All right. His daddy was Colonel John Field Slaughter, mother Jane Alexander, and then his parents were Lieutenant Lawrence Slaughter, Elizabeth Susanna Field, and Jane Alexander, my great grandmother. Her parents were Lieutenant Colonel William Alexander and Sigismunda Mary Massey. All right. Sigismunda Mary Massey. All right. She was named after her mother, apparently. All right. They were in the St. Paul's Parish, King George, Virginia. All right. And She came from Dade Massey Sr. and Elizabeth Ellis. All right. And he came from Captain Robert Massey and Mary Dade. All right. Okay. All right. Mary Dade, Captain Robert Massey and Mary Dade. And then they came from Robert Massey Jr. and Ann Hawson. All right. And Robert Massey Jr.'s parents were Robert Massey Sr. and Elizabeth Powhatan. And Elizabeth Powhatan came from, her daddy is Chief Eagle Plume, which I showed y'all, and Cleopatra Powhatan. All right. Elizabeth Powhatan were their kids. Chief Weroance Powhatan, Nikiti Powhatan, Nippy Kiwu, Elizabeth Pride. So these are their children. All right. And these were Elizabeth Powhatan's children: Samuel Massey, Robert Massey Jr., Roger Massey, Miss Massey, Daughter Massey, and Ralph Massey. So this is just very interesting. Let's look at this. Let's keep going. All right. Now, you see all these indigenous people. All right. So Chief Eagle Plume, which is Opechancanough, Mangopeesomon, his parents were Ensenore Algonquin Powhatan, and then mother of Wuhan Sinakawa, Opechancanough, and Opechancanough. It's a lot. All right, now this one. Let's click on this one. So even you have Chief. Let's look at him. He in my bloodline. Look at him. I come from the bloodline of chiefs. Y'all can't tell me shit. All right. Look at him. Chief Mammon Natowik. Why is it taking so long to load this? I wonder why. All right. So, Powhatan, Tessina, Kamaka, pre-British colonial Virginia, North America, Virginia, British colonial America. This was in 1547. All right, let's scroll down. Okay. So he was born 1547, died in 1618. He was buried in Tessina, Kamaka, Virginia. All right. Now somebody wrote a custom event from the Shawnee Heritage, and it says killed by Chief Ensenore, young chief mourning. All right. Okay, so Chief Mama Nantowick was also known as Powhatan X, Running Stream, Chief Paquicanillo, Don Luis de Velasco Powhatan, also known as Ensenore Wahunsanakak Powhatan. And then you got Ensenore Algonquian Powhatan. Birth name Weroance Powhatan. Okay. So they say he was killed by this chief Ensenore, young chief mourning. It was a political move. Let's look at this. All right. Killed by Chief Ensenore, young chief mourning in 1558 in a political move to unite the coastal bands with the bands of his west and to reduce the danger from nearby inland bands. This comes from the, I guess it's a book or, okay. They call this a book of fiction, but it says Shawnee Heritage 4, page 265 by Don Green. Note, the tribal historian for the Virginia tribes called this book a work of fiction. From Bill Dayo, current tribal historian, Virginia genealogical booklets by William Bill L. Dayo. And it says, besides the Powhatan ancestry, the Shawnee/Cornstalk, and most of the Moitoy children listed on the site, WikiTree, okay, have no basis in fact that I know to appear to be from the horrid book of the Shawnee Heritage. Okay, so they just saying that, okay, even though the Shawnee Heritage book lists these people, but I just had to show y'all this. These are my ancestors. All right, let's look at this. Okay, so it basically, so I can go back to 1520 on my daddy's daddy side concerning my indigenous heritage. And this is just one of the tribes that's in my bloodline on my daddy's side. So I have Powhatan blood listed as Powhatan, Pamunkey. I have this blood in my veins. My family does. So let's look at her. I want to look at her picture. Let's look. Are they going to show it? Oh, she's pretty. Look at her. Mother of Wahunsanakawa Opechancanough. This is her. Look at her. She's beautiful. This is my ancestor. Okay. I ain't editing that picture, but she's beautiful. All right. She was the mother of Wahan Si Naka Opit Chapam. All right. All right. So they had, okay, so the mother of, they list her as the mother, like they didn't know her fucking name. Excuse me. So they just say the mother. All right. They had 3 children, Chief Mama Nat Tawik Wahun Senaka Powhatan. He was born 1547 to 1618. He had a sister, and they just say the sister of, and then so this was one of my great uncles, this chief, because my great grandfather's, his name was Chief Eagle Plume, and this is him. Opechancanough Opechancanough, Mangopeesomon Powhatan. He was born 1554 to 1646. So this is my ancestor. Okay? This is my ancestor. So let's do this real quick. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, let me see. So I'm gonna see if I can just pull up him. Let me highlight his name and just do a Google search. All right. So it's gonna be a second before I can all right. Copy. All right, I'm just trying to share my screen. We're gonna go back to this. It's probably gonna be hard for me to get back there, but y'all just be patient with me. All right. So we're gonna look up my great-great-great-grandfather. Great. All right. So this comes from the Encyclopedia of Virginia. All right. Opechancanough. All right. Opechancanough was a paramount chief of the Comoko, a political alliance of Virginia Indians, and famously led massive assaults against the English colonists in 1622 and 1644. The younger brother or cousin of Powhatan, all right, who was the paramount chief at the time of the Jamestown landing in 1607. Opechancanough was possibly chief of the Youngtanad Indians, and as such protected one of the Comoco's most critical territories. Still, when another chief seduced his favorite wife, neither Opechancanough nor Powhatan had the power to return her. Wow. Although the colonist John Smith portrayed Opechancanough as immediately hostile to the English, the chief actually treated Smith well upon the Englishman's capture. As Powhatan aged, Opechancanough filled the apparent power vacuum, and while he did not immediately become paramount chief upon Powhatan's death in 1618, he appeared to wield the most power. All right, he organized a large-scale assault on the English colonists in March 1622, starting the Second Anglo-Powhatan War, 1622-1632. Another assault, this time in April 1644, inaugurated the much shorter Third Anglo-Powhatan War in 1644-1646, which ended in Opechancannough's capture. So he was captured. Neither attack deterred English expansion, and Opechancanough died in English custody by the early 1700s. The defeated Powhatans were distancing themselves from his memory. Wow. in popular writing about him since has tended to downplay his military and diplomatic achievements. So, what? They was shunning my ancestor because he was captured? But okay, so they distanced themselves when he was captured. Okay. They say his birthday is unknown, although one writer in 1649 estimated that he was nearly 100 years old in 1644. That likely was an exaggeration. In English records, he usually is described as the younger brother of Powhatan. So y'all see, okay, so he was the brother of a chief. Later, he became known as Chief Eagle Plume, Eagle Feather. All right, so this is a old picture this is from the Encyclopedia of Virginia.org. Y'all can fact check me. All right. So he was the younger brother of Powhatan, who was also estimated by the English to have been born in the 1540s. Like Powhatan, Opechancanough became the paramount chief of the Tasina-Kamoka, and because inheritance was matrilineal, he could have been Powhatan's full brother or shared just a mother. They also could have been first cousins through a pair of sisters. Either way, the Powhatan's kingship system still may have considered them brothers. In 1705, the colonist Robert Beverly Jr. wrote that according to the Powhatans, Opechancanough was a prince of a foreign nation and came to them a great way from the southwest. And by their accounts, we suppose him to have come from the Spanish Indians, somewhere near Mexico or the mines of St. Barb. They said, we suppose he came, I'm going to highlight that shit for y'all. They said, we suppose him to have come from the Spanish Indians somewhere near Mexico or the mines of St. Barb. This has prompted the historians to argue that Opechancanough was the same person as Don Luis, also known as, they trying to merge identities? Look at this shit. Also known as Pamunkey, a Virginia Indian who lived among the Spanish in the 1560s and returned home with the Jesuit missionaries in 1570. After apparently participating in killing the Jesuits, Don Luis disappeared from all records. So it looks like he infiltrated them and killed some of them. Okay, then it says he disappeared from all the records. If the two men were in fact the same person, they just giving you this scenario, making us think. If the two men were in fact the same person, this would help explain the widespread notion established by John Smith in his General History of Virginia, New England in Summer Owl, 1624, that Opechancanough had been unremittingly hostile to the English. Yeah, he was hostile to the English because he infiltrated them and killed some of them. So the other Powhatans had to distance themselves from him. This is what they say, right? This is just, okay, I'm reading. Let's read on. There are significant problems with this theory, however. Opechancanough was not always hostile to the English, or at least they did not always view him that way. At one point, an Englishman even described him as gracious. It is true that Opechancanough and Don Luis were about the same age, Both were heirs to chiefdoms. I'm an heir to a chiefdom. And both had similar sounding Indian names. But Opechancanough hailed from farther up the James River and than did Don Luis, who likely was a Paspahegh Indian in 1570. Their respective homes were not yet a part of any single politically consolidated entity. Even if Beverly's report was accurate, the Powhatan Indians of late in the 17th century had an interest in disassociating themselves with Opechancanough, who was infamous for starting wars. He was infamous for starting wars. He's a war chief. All right. In 1622 and 1644. At some point, Powhatan likely appointed Opechancanough Weroance, or chief, okay, of the Young Tanun Indians, and later of the adjacent territory downriver, the Pamunkey. All right, this is map of the Pamunkey Paramount Chiefdom. So this is where my ancestor comes from. The Powhatan, the Pamunkeys. Okay. And that's not no pun. Okay. This is really interesting. But I thought I would share it with y'all, my indigenous heritage. So let's read on, because I have stated some things on several of my posts. But okay. It says later adjacent to the territory downriver Pamunkey. This made him military protector, war chief of one of the Tsina-Comoco's most critical territories. The Pamunkey River, then called Yuntanund, provided an avenue of attack for the Powhatans. The Powhatans were Siouan speaking, it says, excuse me. Let's back up. The Pamunkey River, then called Yuntanund, provided an avenue of attack for the Powhatan's Siouan-speaking enemies, the Monacan Indians. All right, I had did some posts about the Monacans and the Saponis. The Saponis are Eastern Blackfoot tribes. But when I was doing research on my family in the parts of Virginia where they were, I came across the Saponis and the Monacans. But let's read on. According to this, one of the Powhatan's enemies was the Monacan Indians, who lived in its headwaters, requiring a trusted and able group of warriors to stand guard. The land along the Pamunkey River also featured extensive and fertile corn growing soil, along with significant stretches of Tuckahoe producing freshwater marsh. And in 1607, it was home to Utamusak, Tsin-Comacu's holiest temple. They had a temple. Yeah, I know I love the spiritual stuff. The river valley was a critical part of Tsina-Comaco and its defense by Opechancanough says much about the esteem in which Powhatan held him. By all English accounts, even the most hostile ones, Opechancanough was an outstanding politician, but such power had its limits. Another, Weroance Ma Pepsco, seduced Opechancanough Opechancanoug's favorite wife and took her to live with him. And while Powhatan was able to exile the chief, he could not force him to return. Okay. He could not force them to return Opechancanoug's wife when the English arrived. Pepys Kunima became their firm ally. And so it talks about early dealings with the English. The Jamestown colonists arrived in April 1607. In December, a hunting party led by Opechancanough captured Captain John Smith in a skirmish near the town of Opechancanough at the headwaters of Chickahominy River. Smith was removed to the hunters' camp where Opechancanough and his men feasted him and otherwise treated him like an honored guest. Protocol demanded that Opechancanough inform Powhatan of Smith's capture. So Opechancanough captured Smith. John Smith? All right. But the Paramount Chief also was on a hunt and therefore unreachable. Absent interpreters or any other means of effectively interviewing the Englishman, Opechancanough summoned his 7 highest ranking Kiwukusuk or shamans. He summoned the shamans, okay? Y'all see this? And convened an elaborate 3-day divining ritual to determine whether Smith's intentions were friendly. Now, y'all see why I do the shit that I do? My YouTube channel is dedicated to the spirituality and culture of my ancestors. I talk about the different divination practices that they used, my indigenous and Creole heritage. And this shows you that my great ancestor, Chief Eagle Plume, also known as Opechancanough, a Powhatan, he summoned his 7 highest ranking Kawio Kosuk, or shamans, and convened an elaborate 3-day divining ritual to determine whether Smith's intentions were friendly. All right. According to the shamans, they were. But that didn't stop the father of an Indian killed in the skirmish from attempting to murder Smith. All right. So some of the other people was like, we still gonna kill this motherfucker anyway. All right. Finding it a good time to leave the camp, Opechancanough took Smith and went in search of Powhatan. That's the bigger brother, Chief Powhatan. He went in search for his bigger brother, Chief Powhatan. At one point, visiting the Rappahannock Indians. I have a book about the Rappahannock Indians as I was doing research on my family. All right. At one point, he visited the Rappahannock Indians, who had been attacked by a European ship captain a few years ago. Smith was not the same captain. The Rappahannocks decided because he was too short. Okay. So he presented him to them, and they was like, nah, it ain't him because he too short. So he did put in some work. Let's see what else they have to say about my ancestor. Eventually, Opechancanough delivered Smith to Powhatan at Weroance to Kamoko's capital on the York River. This is where I'm at now. Okay, this is where he delivered Smith to. Opechancanough makes 2 more appearances in the English records, assisting Powhatan in entertaining Smith and Captain Christopher Newport. excuse me, in February 1608, and in resisting Smith's taking of his people's winter stores in early 1609, but then disappears for 5 years. During this time, the English began to expand their settlements beyond the Jamestown fort, including Henricus, established on James River in September 1611. Their progress was slowed but not stopped by a series of guerrilla attacks that amounted to the First Anglo-Powhatan War in 1609 to 1614. All right here. All right, in April 1613, all right, Captain Samuel Argall captured Powhatan's daughter, Pocahontas, while she was visiting the Potawatomi on a Potomac River. After transporting her to Jamestown, Argall demanded ransom, and Powhatan partially complied. The by now aging Paramount Chief, okay, so Powhatan was getting old, then tethered for several months, the fight apparently having gone out of him. When in March 1614 the English forced the issue, the colonist Ralph Hamar recorded their impression that Opechancanough, Opechancanough, I gotta get this shit right. Opechancanough had quietly achieved command of all people of the Tsina-Komoko. All right, this is a branch of the Powhatan tribe. All right, this is very interesting because I read some stuff on here and I'm just being refreshed. But some of this stuff, I'm like, oh, really? Okay. All right. Okay, they were from a densely inhabited place. The English, who arrived in 1607, called their territory Virginia. Okay, after a Mary Queen located in London. But that's Powhatan land. All right. The colonists quickly discovered that Powhatan was a paramount chief for over 30 Algonquin-speaking tribes. All right, then there's books on Wawakamoko. This is very interesting, and I'm just sharing with y'all my family tree, my bloodline. Like, this shit is real. All right. All right. And I don't know if y'all can see this, but I have several screens. Damn. I got to share my screen with this on there. But all right. Wokomoko was the cultural and religious center when Powhatan was paramount chief. So this is all right. So they talking about when they probably are blaming him because they abducted Powhatan's daughter Pocahontas. All right. So it talks about Wokomoko was a cultural and religious center when Powhatan was paramount chief before the English arrived in 1607. The source is National Park Service, Captain John Smith, Chesapeake National Historic Trail. Virginia's first known capital was Weroance on the north bank of the river known as the Pamunkey until the English renamed it the York River. So the York River was named the Pamunkey River. All right. From it, Wahun Sunakak, known to the English as Powhatan. So Powhatan's tribal name was Wahun Sunakak. All right. Chief Powhatan. He controlled this territory. It was called Tsina Kamoko or Tsina Kamanka, meaning densely inhabited place. The English who arrived in 1607 called their territory Virginia after this unmarried queen located in London. So these motherfuckers, these English motherfuckers, they came over here and renamed my ancestors' territory where the Pamunkey River is, which is called Weroance and Tsina Kamoko. They renamed that Virginia. All right. Me and my family, we need some fucking reparations. Okay. All right. So it says the colonists quickly discovered that Powhatan was a paramount chief for over 30 Algonquin speaking tribes. He appointed most Werowance's lesser chiefs living in the Tidewater, Virginia, between the Aquia and Potomac Creeks to the Elizabeth River. Okay, and so they just breaking down Powhatan's and his stuff. But we at the hour mark. But this is about my ancestry, so uh, this is very interesting. I'm making a post as we speak. And it was also called Tsina Kamoko. Tsina Kamoko. Yeah, y'all doing all right? This is really good to my spirit and my soul. All right, so they go on to talk about basically the first Anglo-Powhatan War, which started in 1609 to 1614. And they kidnapped Pocahontas and they wanted a ransom and all of this shit. Okay, so all right. Okay, by the time Pocahontas left to England in 1616, a rumor circulated amongst the colonists that Powhatan had gone visiting the Potomac River out of the fear of his brother leaving the governance of Tsinakamoko to Opechancanough and another brother, Chapam. In England, the revered Samuel Purchas, a travel writer and editor who helped to publicize the Jamestown's colony, heard the similar rumor. In this version, Powhatan fled south instead of north and described Opechancanough in terms that belied the later view of him as unrelentingly warlike. He was a fucking warrior, war chief, all right? He was charming, Purchas wrote, a man very gracious both with the Indian people and the English. Around the same time, Opechancanough managed to pull off an enormous feat of diplomacy at the expense of the colonists. The Chickahominy Indians had long resisted incorporation into, so the Chickahominy people, they resisted merging with the Tasina people, the tribe, which are connected to the Weroance, the Powhatan. All right, where Powhatan is from. All right, Chief Powhatan. All right, and then his younger brother, my ancestor. All right, it says in the spring of 1614, at the conclusion of the First Anglo-Powhatan War, they had negotiated a separate pact with the English. But during the peace that followed, English settlements spread even faster up the James, and Chickahominies became restless. By early 1616, all right, this is see these dark Indians right here? Yeah, see them? These are the Chickahominy people, all right? All right, so it says they became restless. By 1616, Opechancanough had persuaded them that their treaty had been made not with the English generally, but only with Virginia's deputy governor, Sir Thomas Dale, who had since left for England with Pocahontas and her husband, John Rolfe. The new deputy governor was George Yeardley, and the Chickahominies, all right, Opechancanough, Opechancanough. I'm going to get this name. Opechancanough. I can recognize it. Okay, Opechancanough argued had no peace with him. All right. The tribe therefore reneged on promises of tribute, and when confronted by Yeardley, made initial gestures of appeasement. Shortly after, however, Yeardley heard they had joined, so the Chickahominy people, they had resisted at first, and then they joined the Tasina, uniting the Tidewaters Algonquin-speaking Indians against the English. So they merged together to be against the English. All right, so Powhatan had died in April 1618 and was succeeded by his next younger brother, Opechancanough, who took the new name Otiotan Etoyatan. All right, described by the colonists as being lame and decrepit. Oh, wow, they going hard. The new Paramount Chief appears only rarely in English records of the time, suggesting that the English did not deal directly with him, but they dealt with. So, if y'all know about like different tribal histories or whatever, there is a war chief and then there's another chief. All right, so from what they're saying and what I read previously, Opechancanough, and I'm gonna get this name down. Opechancanough was the war chief. They also called him Chief Eagle Plume. All right, he was a war chief. Whether the brothers competed or cooperated in this way isn't known, but the English viewed Opechancanough less as a villain than as someone whom to be wary. Evidence suggests that while Powhatan was still alive, Opechancanough paid homage to his older brother while building up a power base of his own and otherwise avoiding any undue attention from the English. So basically, he built up a power base, or army of resistance. Okay, and then the other brother, Opechancanough played a similar role, acting as mostly benign representative of a great power. Much of the anger that permeates the English writer records from 1622 onward, in other words, after Opechancanough, I keep adding a Opechancanough launched a surprise assault that opened the Second Anglo-Powhatan War. Probably stems from the chagrin of realizing that they had been duped for so long. So he waged war on their ass. My ancestor waged war on their ass, okay? So they did try guerrilla warfare tactics. All right. This is a lot of stuff, y'all. We'll be here all day talking about this. But this motherfucker John Smith right here. But let's just read it anyway. Because we're gonna go in. All right. So, and this is when they tried to convert. They also tried to convert my ancestors to become Christians too. Motherfuckers. All right. Yeah. As soon as I said that, yeah. All right. So I'm sweating. I'm having a hot flash. This is, and I flat iron my hair. Whew. It's gonna sweat out. But anyway. All right. So, all right. Let's go where I left off. The Great Assault of 1622. At some point, Opechancanough realized that guerrilla warfare would not halt the English colony continued expansion. So my ancestors was used to like guerrilla warfare, getting up on these motherfuckers and fucking them up. But these English motherfuckers came with these explosives and guns and bullets and shit. So the tactic was known to the Powhatans, all right, who had staged a mock battle to entertain John Smith in 1607, but they used it sparingly due to their limited number of warriors. Intended as a warning. So they showed them, like, okay, let's give these motherfuckers a show of what we can do. Okay. And it was a warning to Smith that we can fuck y'all up. All right. All right. So it said, this was intended as a warning to the English. The assault would target multiple settlements as well as English ships used to trade for corn along the Potomac River and other points to the north. The nervous behavior of Patawomex by 1619 suggests that Opechancanough was pressuring them to join the anti-English movement while also working to unify the Tsena-Komoko. So he was trying to like unify the neighboring tribes to go to war against these English people, to be like a strong resistance against these English people that was coming in and trying to fucking set up shop. All right. All right. So, and he was trying to unify his people, my ancestors. The assault originally was intended to coincide with a religious ceremony in which Powhatan's bones, which had resided in a charnel house since the Paramount Chief's death, were to be taken up, wrapped in a bundle with jewelry, and placed on a scaffold in a temple. All right. So this was one of their rites, their spiritual rituals, to take the great Chief Powhatan's bones and wrap them up in this bundle with jewelry and place it on a scaffold in a temple. In keeping with the custom of setting up ambushes, the occasion would mask the massing of Powhatan's warriors, while perhaps additionally providing the assault with a spiritual motivation. My people are spiritual. So they was like, we're going to do our spiritual rituals, but we going to ride on these motherfuckers. We got a resistance against these motherfuckers. All right. So in the end, however, the attack did not take place as planned. In the summer of 1621, Opechancanough contacted Esme Shinkins, the so-called Laughing King of the Accomack Indians of the Eastern Shore, to request a large supply of the most deadly plant in Eastern Virginia. So my ancestor, Chief Opechancanough, he he contacted a neighboring chief who was called Laughing King of the Accomack Indians of the Eastern Shore, requesting a large supply of the most deadly plant in Eastern Virginia. He was trying to get, like, we about to go hard on these motherfuckers. So he requested a large supply of the most deadly plant in Eastern Virginia, which is called Cicuta maculata, or cowbane. His plan was to poison the colonists before attacking him. So this is like war strategy. So he had plans to poison the colonists before attacking them, but the Accomack Weroance, by then a firm friend and trading partner of the English, these motherfuckers was in bed with the English, these other motherfuckers. They had a great supply of this deadly plant that my ancestor, Chief Opechancanough, he contacted them because he wanted a large supply of this deadly plant. But these Accomack Indians was in bed with the English. So a lot of people was becoming traders and all kind of shit. But my ancestor was a war chief, and he was utilizing spiritual things and physical warfare, these different strategies to raise a resistance and wage war against these English people that was basically invading and trying to take over. These Accomack Indians, I can't blame all of them, but they chief people was in bed with the English. Ooh, they turned my ancestor down like, nah, we can't give y'all that deadly plant. And they informed the leaders at Jamestown. They was some snitches. These Accomack Indians, just some of them, were snitches. All right. Opechancanough postponed the assault and led George Thorpe, a member of the governor's council and an original investor in the Berkeley Hundred plantation, to believe that he was interested in converting to Christianity. This is a war. This is a tactic. He said, all right, so that didn't work. These motherfuckers don't want to give me that powerful plant to poison these motherfuckers, and we got snitches. So I'm going to let these motherfuckers think I'm interested in converting to Christianity. So this was another tactic they did. I'm proud of my ancestor thus far. All right. So, all right. he wanted them to believe that he was interested in converting to Christianity. In January 1622, letter to the Virginia Company of London, the colonists reported Captain Thorpe found by discoursing with Opechancanough that he had more motions of religion in him than could be imagined, and so great blindness, for he willingly acknowledged that theirs was not the right way, disranged to be instructed in ours, and confessed that God loved us better than them. Okay. I'm just reading on. Let's continue to read. At the same time, the colonists noted that both the other brother, one of my great uncles, Opechapam, Otiotan, and Opechancanough had changed their names to Sasapin and Mangopeesomon, respectfully. And that was listed when I was looking at my ancestor records. It says Opechancanough, but it also says Mangopeesomon. All right, so they changed their names. The ceremonial nature of the name change, of which the colonists were apparently unaware, suggests some kind of military preparation. So when they was getting ready to war on these motherfuckers, they changed their name. They like, all right, it's spiritual, it's mental, and it's about to get physical. I love this shit. All right. So, all right. So, it suggested military preparation, probably one with strong religious overtones. Yeah, because my people are spiritual people. In any event, the assault took place on the morning of March 22nd, 1622, and resulted in the deaths of perhaps as many as 347 colonists, Thorpe among them. He got murked. This Thorpe dude. Okay, the toll might have been greater if not for several Indians, including an adult named Chuko, who gave warning to the English. A motherfucking traitor. Yeah. So he got murked because he was a traitor. He was trying to warn the English. People was being bought. People was trading out our people. It was a mess. All right. This was the Anglo-Powhatan Wars. Okay. Opechancanough Chief, put some respect on my ancestor's name. Chief Opechancanoug's warriors insinuated themselves into English homes and, according to Edward Waterhouse, suddenly and barbarously murdered, not sparingly either, age or sex, man, woman, or child, intended not as a genocidal measure, but simply as a warning for the English to leave. So they barbarously murdered, not sparing anybody because of their age or sex, man, woman, or child. They wrote on these motherfuckers and it was intended as a not as a genocidal measure, but simply as a warning to the English to leave. They like, this is an example. This could happen to you and your people if y'all don't fucking leave. So they did ride on some people. They did. All right. So, warning the English to leave. The attack did not succeed and instead initiated the Second Anglo-Powhatan War. English attempts at immediate retaliation, so the English tried to retaliate, came not, because until in later summer, the Powhatans were away from their towns for aging. By September, Ope Opechancanough's people had resumed their guerrilla attacks, and the English suffered more hardship that winter than the Indians, having been too frightened to plant corn. Okay. Still, Opechancanoug's influence over the more distant tribes weakened as a result of English diplomacy and strong arm tactics. The Accomacs left the Paramount Chiefdom altogether. These motherfuckers. All right. After ordering a failed attack in the spring of 1623, the other brother, my great uncle, Opechancanough, invited the English to his capital on the Pamunkey River to discuss peace and to collect ransom for English prisoners taken the year before. Early in April, Chaku and another man traveled to Jamestown to arrange the details, and it is unknown whether Opechancanough or Opechancanough knew about his earlier betrayal. So this motherfucker was a traitor. All right. So it says in May, the English arrived and treated their hosts to tainted wine. They gave them tainted wine, poisoned wine, after which they opened fire. According to their own report, the English brought home parts of their heads, and in other words, scalped some of the Indians. These motherfuckers. Opechancanough apparently was seriously injured and disappears from the English records until 1630, at which point he had already succeeded his brother Opechancanough as Paramount Chief of Descendant. All right. By 1632, both sides were exhausted and a peace was made, after which English settlements began expanding faster than ever before. All right. I'm liking my ancestor's mind because he came up with these war strategies and tactics to rid these English invading motherfuckers. And then he was trying to get the spiritual herbs to poison their ass and then attack their ass. But his neighboring Indians, they fucking snitched on him or whatever. And they didn't give the supply of the poison, the herbs and shit. So he came up with different strategies. He was like, oh, let's meet up with this other motherfucker and we're going to meet with them. So under the pretense of, yeah, we want to convert to Christianity. Really, they didn't because they was riding for my people. And I just read the shit. So y'all see the shit. So we're going to continue to read. We're going to go to the 2-hour mark and I'm going to bring this to a close. But this is just only my daddy's mama side of people. Okay. My bloodline. All right. The Powhatans are a part of my bloodline. So this tribe, Descendant. All right. So the Great Assault of 1644. Over the next decade, tobacco, which is sacred to my ancestors, continued to be the major cash crop for the colonists, and the head right system allowed Englishmen to obtain land by paying for the passage of even more English settlers. By early in the 1640s, colonists were claiming land on the Rappahannock and Potomac rivers. They was claiming land there, and I did speak on the Potomac people and the Rappahannock people. All right, straining the peace and prompting Opechancanough, my ancestor, the war chief. He was now an old man. to undertake a familiar exercise, organizing an attack force while convincing the English that his intentions were friendly. So I like his mind. He was doing different tactics, like, okay, I'm gonna make these motherfuckers think I want to convert to Christianity and poison their ass and ride on their ass. Then he, said, oh, we want to have peace, but he had other plans. So he was using different war tactics and strategies. I like how his mind worked. All right. Shout out to my ancestor. All right. Chief Eagle Plume. All right. So it says in 1641, for instance, he declined to retaliate when the colonists murdered one of his men. He was old, so he was tired, it looks like. All right, so as a result, the English were caught unprepared when on April 18, 1644, Opechancanough, my ancestor, launched a second of his great assaults with a force comprised of Nensimons, some of them, Chickahominies, Weyanoks, and possibly others. So he did have a union of some neighboring Indian tribes, and they did launch a second assault on these motherfucking English invaders. All right. Approximately 400 colonists were killed, more than in 1622. But this time it was a much smaller portion of the English population. Damn. And rather than press the attack, the Indians retired, whether out of military miscalculation or the assumption again that the English would leave. So, my ancestors, my people, they did fight back. They did show resistance, resilience. They relied on spiritual practices, strategies, and guerrilla war tactics on these invader English people. So at the end of the day, I'm fucking proud. All right. So it says, the colonists, meanwhile, were in a better position this time to counterattack, and the Third Anglo-Powhatan War was over by 1646, when an expedition led by Virginia Governor Sir William Berkeley, they captured my ancestor, Opechancanough, at his fort far up the Pamunkey River. Archaeologists remain unsure of the fort's exact location, although it appears on an English map. So they captured the great war chief, my ancestor, my great grandfather, Opechancanough. He also changed his name for a second to what is it? I read it earlier to y'all. But they captured him. All right. They captured him at his fort far up the Pamunkey River. All right. War Chief Opechancanough, successor as a Paramount Chief, Nico Tawance, made a peace in which, according to an English report, he proclaimed that the sun and moon should first lose their glorious lights and shining before he or his people should evermore hereafter wrong the English in any kind, but they would ever hold love and friendship together. So this motherfucker afterwards, he made some kind of pact with them saying that they basically wouldn't, attack. In the meantime, Governor Berkeley decreed that war chief, Opechancanough be kept alive and transported to Jamestown. There, according to Robert Beverly Jr. in his History and Present State of Virginia, 1705, he was treated as an oddity, with people coming to stare at him in his cell. Within 2 weeks of his arrival, one of the English guards shot my ancestor, War Chief Opechancanough, dead. There's no record of where or how he was buried. Motherfuckers. All right. So this is fucked up. It's saying that some of the descendants of my great grandfather, War Chief, his people had disowned him, claiming his leadership to be illegitimate because he hailed from somewhere to the southwest, possibly in the Spanish territory. Hence the argument that Opechancanough and Don Luis were the same person. So they had the stories mixed up because my ancestor, which is the war chief, all right, reigning from the Powhatan bloodline, he was the war chief. And then this Don Luis, they were different people. But this is how stories be getting mixed up and shit. And shit lost in fucking translation. They basically was mad and said that he was this other person, Don Luis. So they distanced themselves from his memory. So this is just, just in a little portion of my ancestors' history. So happy Indigenous Heritage Month. Happy American Indian Heritage Month. My laptop is about to die. I got 10%, but I'm going to close it out here and y'all can read this, listen to it, all of that, and see where I'm coming from. All right. So I am proud of my war chief ancestor because y'all see what he did. All right. So I love y'all. Peace. Asheo. Wow. Firekeepers, stay lit. Represent our indigenous and aboriginal bloodline to the fullest. Keep your fires lit, firekeepers. All right. I love y'all. Peace. I'll be back for part 2.